What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mokuphu Gaming. This is our roundtable with WandaVision. This is going for episode 6. We're going to discuss all the things that happened in this episode. There's a lot of crazy things that happen. This whole world's starting to blow up, literally and figuratively. With me once again is big man Gil, Tone, and with us is the newcomer, Edgar P. Pimpin. How you doing, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
All right, so we're gonna get right into it. This one was real big. We got some weird things going on with Pietro. Vision almost escapes, and everything is getting crazy. Wanda's starting to get crazy. The boys are growing up. So we're gonna start off with our first impressions. Since you're the new man here, Edgar, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What were your impressions of this episode?
Yeah, Pietro's role has been like something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, who is he? What's going on there with that whole thing? And then that Vision escape. Like, there was just so many different pieces of this episode that I'm just like eager to talk about and kind of digest with you guys.
All right, Tone, what are your impressions?
Yeah, gonna reiterate, the best episode yet. So much happened, especially at the end of the episode, where one of the predictions we've had for a while now about it getting bigger came to fruition. So that was pretty cool to see. Then the kids getting powers, that was pretty cool. Or at least, Billy, I think, or Billy or Tommy got the speed powers like his uncle. So yeah, lots to digest this episode.
Yeah, like Tone and Edgar said, definitely the best episode so far. Each episode keeps getting better and better. A couple of highlights that I really liked were the Sokovian witch costume that Wanda had on, her OG Scarlet Witch costume, and she was looking fire in it, so that's always good. I thought that was pretty cool that Pietro started breaking the fourth wall. He knew he was in the sitcom. He knew that Wanda was in control of what was happening. The twins' powers that basically mirror Quicksilver and Wanda. One has the super speed. One basically has Wanda's powers, which I thought was pretty cool. Like when he put his hand up to stop, his brother, his powers seem blue. Wanda's powers seem red. I thought that was really cool. I kind of feel like the director of Sword is kind of going into that X-Men movie trope with the whole like hating, people with powers or superpowers or mutants or whatever. It just seemed like the guy in charge hates, mutants. That's kind of the gist I was getting from that guy. But like Tone said, Wanda's environment getting bigger. A lot of cool Easter eggs, a lot of cool stuff happened there. I liked it.
Awesome. I totally agree with all you guys. That episode was amazing. One of the big things, though, that we got into with this episode was Pietro. Like, he is acting super sus. Like, what is his deal? I don't quite understand where he's going, how he got there. Even Wanda seems a little bit, like, disturbed about him being there. So let's get in on that. Let's start talking about that. Tone, why don't you start us off with that? What were your impressions? What do you think is going on with Pietro? What's your theories on him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's clues there. I definitely think that seemed like some of the memories he had of the childhood didn't seem to match up with what she remembered as their childhood. So I'm not sure. Again, we've talked about this before. Is he the X-Men's Quicksilver that she brought over? I don't think that. I think that, like I said, the studio is messing with us, knowing that that character or the actor played that character in that franchise, and they're just kind of using him because we know that. So I don't think he's an X-Men. I don't think he is that character. If he was, I don't think he had a sister, a twin sister in that series. So it doesn't really jive with that. That's why I think really it's not really him. So what is it? Maybe he is someone that has more influence, has an idea of what's going on in this universe besides Wanda, that is, kind of pushing her certain ways or keeping her, locked in there somehow, or wanting her to do something for his own benefit.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some ulterior motives going on with him, right? I mean, he literally asks her at one point, like, how are you doing this? Right? Like, how are you, like, what are you doing? And I feel like he is in there to try to figure out, like, how is she doing it for his own benefit? And then to continue to manipulate her to his own advantage. I heard or read about some stuff where like he could be like, this is like the opening of a multiverse. So like, that's why he's there. He's like, he is Quicksilver in another universe. Somehow, whoever's trying to get into her reality is trying to find a way in. And I think that's what, they try to do. And like, she was shocked when he shows up at the door. She seems to kind of know what's going to happen, right? Like for the majority of things that are happening. But with some characters that have popped up, like Agnes or like with him, like she does seem sometimes genuinely surprised about the stuff that they do. Like she doesn't she's not controlling them, right? Like maybe they're going along with it to make her think that she is, but I think they're definitely like there's people in her reality I think that she's not controlling, and like I think in the next couple episodes we're gonna find out very clearly like who these characters are.
All right, cool. All right, hot takes kill. Drop a bomb on us.
See, like I was all in for the multiverse last time we talked, and then now, like when she what triggered it for me is when she said, no, when he said that last thing I remember was bleeding and being shot, and then now I'm here. So, I mean, I think there's some correlation between the original Quicksilver and this one. I think mostly this is just Marvel just like winking at, the audience saying that, we bought Fox and mutants are on their way and this kind of stuff. I don't think it's really so much as like they're going to connect the multiverse of the old X-Men anymore. I don't think that's the way the whole thing's going. I think it's more of just kind of almost like a sitcom trope. Like they, Vision and Wanda had a problem, and then the crazy Uncle Jesse showed up, and then now they're like in Malcolm in the Middle land somewhere, and he's like creating drama for them, like and that's just basically like where the storyline's going, just kind of like that classic sitcom deal.
All right. I mean, okay. So I still believe that they're going with the whole X-Men being brought in, just simply because of how things are going with the expanding of the, the hex. I still feel that it's going to go along and it's going to envelop the whole world at some point because they're not going to be able to stop her, and then that's just going to bring everything to a head somehow. That's my theory. I still like you guys' theory. I think it could be a nod to it, but I don't know. I think they've got to do something with that. I can't imagine them just bringing him in just to be like, hey, guess what? We got X-Men, but we aren't going to use them. So I don't know if I'm on board with you guys on that one. Let's go over the things that happened with Vision when he escaped from the hex and everything leading up to that. Showing up, speaking about also Agnes being out there in the cuts, acting all crazy as well. So let's start off with you, Gil. Go ahead and tell us what was your take on that whole subject.
Well, I really thought when Vision left, when he went outside of the hex, that he was going to stay alive, but it doesn't seem like he has any kind of, individual ability outside of that. I thought was really interesting was his interaction with Agnes, and then that she seemed under Wanda's control too. I thought, leading up to that, the way she was reacting, that she was almost like enabling Wanda, helping Wanda, maybe even controlling what Wanda was doing, but she doesn't seem to have any control over what's going on. And she doesn't understand the inconsistencies going on. And, like when Vision did the zap to, bring her back to reality, she started freaking out. So obviously she may have helped Wanda in the beginning, and then it got out of control, and now she has no control over what's going on. Or she's just always been under her, her control for the most part.
The thing about him trying to escape, well, then back up a little bit. First, his interaction just on the way to the edge of the hex. You see that the world it's all just set dressing. There's no real like, it's just very surface, nothing below. Even the people don't have like they're in a loop or they're frozen. There's nothing that like animates them as people anymore. So as you leave her sphere of influence or what she can see or interact with, like nothing's behind there. It just like falls away. So then I was very curious to find Agnes, who's a very central character on her show, out on the very edge of the hex. She has no business being there. Why was she there? There is a town party going on for Halloween. She should be there as a central character of Wanda's show. So why is she there? I think it has more to do with that she is more. It's more confirmation that she is part of what's going on, or at least has a high level of consciousness of what's going on. If she's not affecting it, or she's less affected by it somehow. So Vision leaving was interesting because I would imagine if he crosses the boundary of the universes, that he can no longer exist, and he would just fall away and die. But it wasn't what was happening. He was being pulled back. Like it was, it wasn't like he was just disappearing. He was being literally pulled back into the universe. He's having to fight to get out of it. So I'm not sure what that means. I don't think it's as simple as clear as cut as he can exist outside of there yet. Maybe he can, but he was definitely being pulled back in, like he wasn't being allowed to leave.
I have a really interesting theory about the whole thing. Especially with Vision, like learning all these things about himself and the whole world that he's trapped in. The whole fact that Agnes was out there in the cuts trying to get out. I feel that at some point in the beginning, she knew what was up. Maybe she was trying to help Wanda through her grief or whatever. And like Gil said in one of our earlier episodes, that Agnes actually is like a witch, and she was trying to help her, and that's how come she is still kind of retaining part of who she is. And so now she's like, she was trying to help, and then the whole hex showed up, and then she's now trying to escape because she's like, this is way too much, this is more than I can handle. So I think that's what was happening there. She was like, oh no, I need to get out of here, and that's how come she kind of freaked out, and she was asking, hey, are you gonna help us, are you here to help us get out of all of this mess? Let's get on to your predictions for what is going to happen onto the next episodes. What are your predictions for what's coming up?
I think, the best thing I can predict, is pretty obvious, is that now the FBI agent, what's his name?
Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo and Monica are going to enter the hex with, however, they're going to use that vehicle we've seen in the previews to enter the hex. I think it happens next episode. And then we'll see how Wanda reacts. Is she going to attack them? Is she going to expel them? Is she going to expand her hex even further because they're still penetrating her new her new world, her reality? And then more with Pietro. I think there's something's going to happen. Wanda doesn't feel comfortable with him, I don't think, right now. And knowing that there's these threats, she may also think that he's part of that. So I'm interested to see what happens with the two of them.
We're talking about predictions, right?
Predictions.
Okay. I would say in this next episode, it's going to continue to grow. Like the Wanda area, the hex, it's going to continue to grow out. I thought it was really cool how she turned all the sword guys into clowns. I thought that was just kind of like a little funny anecdote that she did. I think Vision's going to be becoming more self-aware because he does that every single episode. I don't know if he'll have a memory of seeing the sword agents or leaving the hex or whatever. I think he'll be becoming more aware, more of a problem for Wanda trying to control. Pietro seems like kind of a variable, like kind of a wild card. You never know what's going to happen with him. He's kind of playing along, but then can kind of snap out of it and just kind of cause some trouble. I think the boys are going to continue to age up. I think they're going to continue to be more of a wild card for Wanda as well, because they seem to kind of be becoming aware of their powers. I do think that vehicle is going to come in that they've been showing in the trailers. I still think there's going to be some type of superhero that's going to show up, because Monica keeps talking about calling somebody that she knows that seems to be enhanced or has special powers or something. So one of the Avengers or a mutant or somebody, but still my money is still on Doctor Strange showing up. And then I think that the director is going to become more reckless. He's going to become more aggressive in his tactics. I think he's going to get away from the hex eventually. And he's going to become that X-Men trope that I talked about earlier, just hating anybody with superpowers or mutants eventually. And then I also think, here's my deep cut theory that I'll end on here, okay? I think that he was mining Vision. So he was taking all the parts and doing all that stuff to eventually what's going to turn into, you guessed it, Sentinels, guys. All right. So they're taking all these parts from them to create Sentinels to be able to police and catch all of the mutants that will be created. This is the groundwork. This is the framing.
That's a pretty good theory there, Gil. You don't look like you're impressed, Edgar.
Oh, come on, that was
good. I've heard that theory floated that they were planning to make, that they were using him to make their own robots they can control. Basically, the idea being that since the snap, they depend on the Avengers which they can't control. So they wanted to use Vision to make some type of army that they could control to protect themselves. That's kind of the genesis of why they were experimenting with Vision's corpse.
All right. Edgar, your thoughts? What are your predictions?
I think there's so much still to be mined and to be explored with all the current characters they already have. It's like bringing in the X-Men as a big event at the end of maybe phase 4 or as they move into the next phase of the Marvel stuff. But there's so much still to be explored and talked about. Yeah, I think Pietro is going to be a key character. I think we're going to find out that he is definitely he's not who we think he is. I definitely think that there's I've read Mephisto or Nightmare or some other character working behind the scenes, and I think that definitely makes a lot of sense with the way that he behaves and what he's been doing to Wanda. I feel like Wanda, she's working through these stages of grief, right? And anger is one of them, you know, and like she's angry and she's upset and like she's like just trying to like she's in kind of like a denial about everything that happened, and like she's trying to mold the world to her will so that she doesn't have to go through any more trauma, right? It's like this person like trying to work themselves through trauma and like all the different phases that come through it. So we're going to continue to see her like, yeah, maybe she does move into like, we've seen the anger come out, but I feel like by the end of this series, like we're going to see a very angry Wanda, right? Like trying to protect herself and like all the things that she cares about and loves, and like doing everything she can to keep him in there, right? And like I think that gives her a sympathetic edge of like, what would you do, you know, like if all these things have been taken from you in the way that they have from her, like what other reaction do you expect the person to have, you know? Yeah, the whole Vision becoming self-aware, I just find that again so interesting. It's like the robot that's dead is more aware than so many characters in this show about what's going on. Yeah, and then I think there's a lot to be said, yeah, about the director. He's another one of those characters that like there's been chatter about him, like again, not being who we think he is, right? He comes off at the very beginning like, I knew your mother, like he kind of paints himself as this good guy, and then as like time is going on, you see him like he wants to eliminate her at all costs. But in the next episode specifically, I think we are going to see more clear examples of who Pietro really is and like what's really going on with Agnes. I think those two characters are going to come out a little bit more in the next one.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us once again for this roundtable. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. Tone, Gil, and Edgar, we hope to see you guys again.